3 golden eagles for War Thunder. Link in the description.
All the clear space in my mind, I filled it with fire and the lies I had once believed. All the lies reveal themselves to me.
Hello you sex beasts, welcome back to War Thunder. This is the Leopard 1, German tier 5 medium tank slash main battle tank. This thing sits at a battle rating of 8.0 and as such represents the only 8.0 tank that Germany does get. Leopard 1 features a 105mm cannon of British design, which can fire APDS rounds, hash rounds and HEATFS shells. Now, the tank in itself can carry up to 60 rounds. It also features a 7.62mm coaxial machine gun, which can use to spot enemy tanks. And here is where the first amazing thing of the Leopard comes in. That gun has an amazing reload rate. In my current configuration with my crew completely maxed and the tank completely researched and with all modifications installed as well, the reload of this cannon is only 7.1 seconds. That is extremely fast, especially at this battle rating where most of the tanks tend to have high caliber guns like the Russian 122mm gun or for example the M103 which is a 120mm gun. This thing can fire sometimes even 2 shots before the enemy gets even a single shot in. Stock, the reload rate isn't all that bad. It still gets a 9.2 second reload rate. The gun handling itself is also very good. The turret in my current configuration is a 24 degrees per second turn time. The gun can travel between -9 and +20 degrees on the vertical, which means that you can actually use this tank to crest hills and stuff like that, which combined with the low profile that this tank has, makes it for quite a sneaky hill peaker. The tank in itself weighs 40 tons and has a 830 horsepower engine, giving it a massive 20.8 horsepower per ton power to weight ratio, which allows this tank to just zip around the battlefield. This is one of the most mobile tanks in War Thunder. Both forwards and backwards, you can dodge enemy shots, you can go backwards extremely fast, you can climb hills, very steep hills that other tanks just couldn't do. You can just appear from surprise angles, and it really is the strength of the Leopard. Add to that the 65 km/h top speed, and you have yourself one hell of a harasser tank. This thing can just flank around the entire enemy team and surprise them from the sides, which is exactly what most Leopard drivers tend to do, because the Leopard doesn't get, well, it does get some armor, but at this tier that's not really all that much. Now the turret does get between 100 and 120mm of armor, with another 20mm of armor behind that. There's actually a hidden armor zone which is just behind the gun mantle, which can stop some shots, it can bounce some shots, but at this tier you shouldn't count on it. You can maybe shrug off AA fire, heat shells, hash shells maybe, but not more than that. The upper hull has about 120mm of effective armor. It is quite slowed, which means that you can bounce the occasional APHE shell, but still not very good. Then you have the lower plate, which is about between 80 and 90mm of effective thickness, and that's just penetrated by everything. The weak spot of the tank is the lower glacis. This thing can be penetrated by ZSUs, by 40mm AA fire. Anything can punch through this tank. Now the ammo choices you have available to you from stock is only a single one, which is the APDS shell. This shell gets 303mm of penetration and has a 1478 meters per second muzzle velocity, which makes it extremely accurate at long ranges. However, being an APDS shell, you tend to lose a bit of penetration over range and also can't deal with angled armor all that well. Shooting at stuff like the front of a T-54, you will lose about half of your penetration, which is not very good. The first unlockable shell you can unlock, of course, is the HEATFS shell with a 145mm of penetration and only a measly 730 meters per second muzzle velocity. This shell can be effectively used against medium tanks such as the T-54, where you can aim at the lower glacis and send your shrapnel right through the entire tank. But overall, this shell can get eaten up by pretty much anything. Spaced armor, tracks, road wheels. It's not very reliable. Finally, the last unlock is the amazing HEATFS shell with, get this, 400mm of penetration. This is on par with other HEATFS shells for the most penetration in War Thunder. At all ranges, by the way. Even at a 30-degree impact angle, you still retain about 200mm of penetration, which makes this thing absolutely deadly. Any range, any angle, you're going to punch straight for your enemy. And the muzzle velocity isn't that bad either. You get about 1173 meters per second, which makes it easy enough to hit longer ranged targets. Now in this battle on Eastern Europe, we pretty much just completely wrecked the enemy team. This is, by the way, the version that was played on the Thunder League, and the most important point to hold on this map is the C flag. Now, the way to hold the C flag on this map is to, of course, send your tanks over there, but also create some flanking lines. Since the other side of the river is kind of linear, you don't really get many flanking opportunities, so that's exactly what I did. Leopard is a flanking tank. If the enemy sees you and if the enemy starts shooting at you, it is oftentimes too late. What you really have to do in this tank is flank around, use that mobility, use that top speed, and use that fast firing gun to just completely surprise enemy flanks. The fast fire rate allows you to dispatch of multiple enemies at once, as you saw earlier on in the replay. At this point of the match, we're pretty much just cleaning up the enemy. This is really a short match. I mean, the thing about the Leopard is, I'm actually going to say it, this is probably the best tank in War Thunder right now. There, I said it. The combination of the mobility with the fast fire rate is just absolutely amazing. And another thing that really helps this tank as well is just the low profile. This thing is one of the lowest tanks in War Thunder, which means that it's rather hard to spot it as well. As long as you know how to position yourself, as long as you know how to use terrain features, use bushes, use tree lines, and correctly crest hills, most of the time the enemy will have no idea where you are. And if you've ever played against a German team in these high tier RB battles, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Leopards are the bane of any tank's existence. Of course, there is a perfect counter to everything. Well, mostly everything. And as such, the Soviets do indeed get a perfect counter. Well, Soviets and, in this case, the Americans as well, as I'm facing off against this M42, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, AA wrecks you. One, they have almost no armor, which means that, well, HEATFS shells, for once, are mostly completely ineffective. Your heat shells, yeah, they do some damage, but you have to aim correctly in order to disable the gunner. And in case of the ZSU 57-2, the tank gets 2 gunners, which means even if you do take out 1 gunner, it's still going to fire back at you. And those medium caliber shells, fast firing, they completely wrecked you. I'm actually going to suggest you watching my video on the ZSU 57-2, as I undermined some of the problems that tank has, and showed you actually what that thing is like against the Leopards. But if the enemy team does not have any anti-aircraft vehicles, the Leopard wrecks everything. As long as it doesn't get shot at, that is. At this point we're pretty much just cleaning up the enemy team. We are right up in the enemy spawn. That T-54, sadly it still had spawn protection on, and I don't know where this shot went. I have no idea where that shot went. That tank should not have had any more spawn protection, but somehow it did. Then again, I'm feeling kind of cheesy here. In a bit we are going to fall back. It seems like there's a T-10M on the other side of the river, holding off from the upside of the hill, and he's shooting at our teammates. Now the Leopard, being so mobile, usually has no problem responding to those kinds of situations. Overall, the Leopard is just a very, how can I put it, very all-round good tank. It's a jack of all trades. Even though you can't hold front lines, which is really not your job, you can just respond to every single situation. If there's you can be on the other side of the map, and if an enemy starts to cap your cap zone, you can just turn around, go back, shoot him in the face, go back, and cap their cap circle. That's how fast this thing can be. At this point of the game, we pretty much had nothing else to do. We got all of our kills, we are down to 7 rounds of HEATFS shells. We actually fired quite a lot of shells during this game. We almost went into the river there. That would have been embarrassing. And we are now trying to go after the last member of the enemy team that's still alive, a T10M. Now this Panther 2 here is... Mate, come on. This guy actually tried to ram me into the river. And now he won't allow me to go past. You know, the problem about multiplayer games is there are other players. And whilst I tend to be to turn the other cheek and not to retaliate too much as to not cause any more drama, that guy kind of pushed a fuse with me. I was thinking he was the Panther from earlier in the gameplay that tried to push me in front of enemy fire. So go for his tracks and he almost falls in. If you shoot one of the tracks, the tank tends to turn towards the side, but it was too far away and he survives. Oh well. Trolling denied. And there we go. 8 kills in the Leopard 1 alongside with 3 assists. Only 44,000 silver lines, not too much. We do get 2 respawns for the Leopard 1, but we did get 9,000 RP, which is quite nice, And this is without a talisman on the tank. The Leopard is just all around a very good tank and definitely worth the grind. If you're currently researching the Leopard, just do it. Honestly, it is quite honestly the best tank in War Thunder right now. And it's just very easy to have good results in this tank. Now to recap the pros and cons of this tank. Pros, of course, you have a very fast firing gun, you have awesome mobility, the low profile of this tank in conjunction with some of the camouflage options you can unlock mean that you can be very stealthy as well. And the ammo choices, whilst the APDS shell is kind of underwhelming, once you unlock the HEATFS shell, nothing can stop you. Of course, the one and only counterbalance to that really is the armor. Pretty much anything can penetrate you. And once you have too thin armor to stop most shells, the armor isn't quite thin enough to not activate fuses either. So 120mm APHE shell from, for example, the T10M or the 100mm APHE shell from the T54s does tend to wreck you in a single shot, as well as that massive ammo rack that you get just to the right side of the driver in the front of the tank, which once penetrated most of the time blows up. Other than that, it's just an amazing tank. Now, if you like this video, do give a like rating. Tell me in the comment section down below what your experiences with the Leopard have been, if you've driven it, or if you've went up against it. You can also vote for the next vehicle on the top right corner. I'm not quite sure which options I'm going to put in there, but by the way, if you want to suggest some tanks or aircraft to put in the polling list, do so in the comments. That's how I picked them. Subscribe if you're new around here. My name has been MikeGoesBoom. Thanks for watching.
You can lift your head up to the sky, take a deeper breath and give it time. You can walk the path among the lines with your shattered frame of mind. Or instead you could always stay. We can wait right here and play until somehow you can find a slightly